Back in the early 1980s, a number of people insisted that we have our acting headshots taken by Bob Newi. Well, we didn't know Bob, but we scheduled. We spent 3 or 4 hours at his place. He took our photos, we paid him, we collected our stuff, and as we headed to the door to leave, Bob stopped us and said, "Hey, can we be friends?" Before we had a chance to even answer this question, he said, "You want to just go to Coney Island some weekend on a Saturday afternoon and just walk around and talk? Can we be friends?" And that was our introduction to one of the finest human beings we have ever known.
So after college, studying dress design, I found that I was really interested in costumes. But Chicago was not a fashion place, so it was either going to be Paris or New York. And I figured New York is better because then my family could send me money easier. I started as an assistant at the Fair store, which was a big department store, like a Sears. I was an assistant, and in 3 months, I was doing windows. I left there and I became assistant display director for Charles A. Stevens, a very fine women's store on State Street. And I left there because the guy who was my boss was drunk all the time, and I was doing the work. So they fired him, and I said...
And how old are you at this point?
20, 21.
Oh my God.
Maybe 21.
Oh my God.
And they wouldn't hire me because it was a very conservative Catholic company, and they wanted a married man with children and all that. So I got a job as an assistant to the guy at Saks Fifth Avenue on Michigan Avenue, and I was there for a couple, 2-3 years, and Henry Callahan, who was the head man of Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, of all the Saks displays stores, invited me to come to New York. The New York store dictated what we did in all the stores, but I would take one step a little bit further. They wouldn't give me my seniority. They wouldn't give me my medical benefits. They wouldn't give me my rent, my pay, and they wanted me to be a lowly assistant. And I said, sorry, I can't do that. So I get all my photographs and my artwork, and I put them in a little bag, and I hit every store on the avenue. And I worked for Bergdorf's, Lord & Taylor, Oppenheim, Collins, B. Altman. I worked for all of them.
Oh my
freelance.
God, Fifth Avenue. So you knocked on. Did you make appointments? Did you show up at the store and say who's in charge? I mean, how did you get to see these people?
No, what I did was I would call the display departments and say I'd like to come by. And they, in those days, they would have skeleton crews, but they would hire freelance people at night to do the windows. Well, I was doing the windows, and there was this buyer for the men's department named Elsie. It was a very small men's department. It wasn't as Bergdorf is today. And she insisted that I do her windows, and we were getting big accolades. Well, everybody at that time on the avenue in the display industry knew who was doing what. I have in my possession a yellowing Western Union telegram saying, "Call my office immediately, Henry Callahan, Saks." So I go in, they give me everything I want. I'm working there for 2 years. I do the front windows, I do the side windows, I do everything. And about that time, a woman called me who was representing the fashion industry in the buying offices. She called me one day and she said, "I'd like to meet with you." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, I have an idea that might be of interest to you." And I said, "Oh, okay." I'm being representing a department store that's an old German department store. They sell linoleum in the basement and refrigerators and stuff, and they want to change their image. You would be the one to accessorize and do the mannequins for the front, for the windows. I said, "Okay." Bloomingdales.
What?
I was there in the inception of Bloomingdales becoming what it was.
What year was that?
1961.
So Bloomingdales was fairly new. I mean,
No, Bloomingdales has been around for over 100 years, but it's been an old German family. It's always been around.
But it wasn't a high-end store.
No, and they wanted to become high-end. So this one buyer, she was the buyer for, it was called the Sutton Room, and it was very expensive clothing. And she came up to my little office, because we were talking about something, and she saw my sketches, and she said, "Oh, you're an illustrator?" I said, No, I made those clothes. She said, "I want you out of here. I want to buy your clothes." She gets me a job on 7th Avenue. Her brother is J.D. Salinger.
What?
I'm telling you.
I want your life.
I want to tell you. She put me on 7th Avenue, and I designed for a company called Abe Schrader. I did the Steffen line, which was a sportswear for young women. But I tell you, I hated those.
The garment district.
I hated the 7th Avenue people.
Yeah, cheese.
I hated it. I had a friend that was a model for Pauline Trigère. You know her now?
Yes.
I started working for Pauline, freelance, draping. I'm very good at draping. One of my coats is in the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's on Patricia Neal. So anyway, I worked for her for a while, and I started designing little girls' dresses, 3 to 6X, 7 to 14.
I remember those advertisements.
I worked for Joseph Love, Kate Greenaway, Mary Mites, Gay Sprites, Helen Lee. I worked for all of them. I still hated the people in the industry. One day I got a call from a man named John Dunn. We're going to do some loungewear for Bazaar and 17 magazine. I said, "Show me the clothes, and who's your model?" And they introduced me to this young girl who was just starting out. We became good friends, Veronica Hamill, who was in Hill Street Blues.
Yes! Gorgeous. Oh
As a matter of fact, I have pictures of her and my friend Maud Adams, who was just in town 3 weeks ago, came to see me. She and her husband were in Sweden, because that's where she has a home as well. And they came through New York just to see me. I get a call from a man named Norman Gray of Needham, Harper and Steers. He says, "I want to have lunch with you. We're going to do a fashion shoot in the Bahamas." And I produced commercials. I did all the ads. My major accounts were Eastman Chemical, which is Codell, the fiber, Kodak, Manhattan Shirts, the island of Bermuda. I was in Bermuda every 2 months. You know the show To Tell the Truth?
Yeah.
I was on it 3 times. Sandy Lesberg was a radio personality who had written a book called The Single Man's Cookbook.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Sandy Lesberg.
Number 2.
My name is Sandy Lesberg.
Number 3.
My name is Sandy Lesberg.
All right, here is Sandy Lesberg's story. Number 3 were the wrong rule. What is your real name, sir? What do you
My
do?
name is Simon Newey, and I'm a fashion coordinator for the advertising Needham, Harper and Steers.
Kitty Carlisle has her hand up.
I
Yes,
wanted
sir.
to say number 3. You probably thought we meant R-U-E, which is an herb.
True.
Of course.
There you go.
Change
Would
your
you
vote.
care to have 5 seconds, Sandy, to defend yourself? Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you, imposters, for being with us on To Tell the Truth.
At Needham, Harper, wonderful. However, after 2 years, they took the account to J. Walter Thompson, but they couldn't take me because they already had a fashion person there. What do? I decided I'm going to be an actor. Carmen Miranda.
You wanted to be Carmen Miranda.
I wanted to be Carmen Miranda. I wanted to
And
dress
to make her
her
costumes.
I wanted.
And to,
I wanted,
got it,
I
yeah.
wanted that period. I studied with a man named Sandy Meisner.
Of course.
Privately.
Sandy Meisner was my acting teacher, Win Hanman's mentor.
Yeah. And Bob Modica and all those guys.
Oh, he was in the studio next door.
Yeah,
fuck
yeah.
you! No, fuck you! No, fuck you!
In the
no, fuck you!
Carnegie.
Yeah.
I've been in 40 or 50 films. Stardust Memories. I I had lines in that.
This is Mr. Payson, our chairman and Mrs. Payson. They adore you.
We love your work. My wife has seen all your films.
I especially like your early funny ones.
Dick LaBelle.
Marathon Man, and I do the scene. I'm on the telephone. But when a woman gets hit by a car, I rush and pick her up. So that was my Marathon Man. At the time I was doing the acting, I thought, well, I really got to do something. So a guy called me up, I'm going to open an agency and I'd like you to help me open it. And I said, okay, Zoli. So I was with him for about a year. And I thought to myself,
I love that you're at the beginning of these things. Like you're at the beginning of Bloomingdales. You're at the beginning of Zoli.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
I photographed a lot of opera people because Herbert Breslin was a manager, and he was a good friend of mine, and he would bring opera people to me. I photographed Roberta Peters, and I photographed somebody who became a friend of mine, Pavarotti, and his picture of my picture of him
and you eliminated his sweat in your pictures. I know you did.
Well, I photographed him on a horse. But there were many photographers around,
yeah,
but I was hired to take his picture, and they used my picture in the book. I photographed a young girl when she was 12. I did some beautiful pictures of her. I jammed her down every agent's throat, and they said, yeah, she's cute, but she hasn't done anything. Anne Hathaway.
This is pretty great. You posted this on Instagram. Was this your first headshot?
That was my first headshot.
Whose idea was it to put your fists on your hips?
A very talented photographer named Bob Newi, because it was commercial.
I see.
That was going to make sure that everybody was going to want to hire me, because I'm ready for anything.
That's supposed to indicate...
Whatever you need, I can do it all. Here we go. I've clearly grown out of that.
And you picked the picture, and you're like, yeah, this is great. This is good. Did it work? Did it get you jobs?
I did get a couple jobs. I'm not sure from this one, but I did get a couple jobs.
Were you?
I photographed Stanley Tucci for his very first headshots. So many people. When I started out, when I came to New York, I was designing little girls' dresses. I saw that they were going to do a little off-Broadway show about a Curly McDimple, a Shirley Temple.
So you did do costumes?
Yes, off-Broadway. So you know who was in the show with us? A 19-year-old girl that I'm still friendly with, Bernadette Peters.
I know that deep inside.
You are an artist, and then you are the representative of artists, and you are the friend of artists, but I mean, I see you, basically that's the essence of you, is your creativity, but you don't separate, you don't make distinctions between what you're doing.
No, you can't. It's all one color. It's one color. Fashion, artistic, everything. It's over, but it's not over.
So when you get to be 86, people aren't calling you anymore and saying, hey,
No.
So, I mean, is there, or do you not concentrate, or was that a difficult transition, or?
No, I'm satisfied with what I've done, and I'm happy that there are still a few people that know me or knew of me and stuff like that.
I had the pleasure of being photographed by Bob many times, which he was really the only photographer that I felt comfortable in front of the camera with. I adored him, and it hit me hard when he passed, because he was an icon in our business and New Yorker to the core, and he just made so many people not only look good, but feel so good about themselves. God bless you. May you rest in peace, and we celebrate you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Cousin Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Hi, it's Dee Hody. Love you, Bob.
Thanks for everything, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, dear Bob.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Uncle Bob.
Thank you, Uncle Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Cousin Bobby. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Bob.
And a final thank you, Bob, from myself, who did this video. And now a final word from Hal Dion. Love you, Bob. Here's a quick photo that Bob did of my wife and I.
I'm just living a day to day, and whatever perks come about that are exciting for me, like this meeting, lunch, is just more cherries on the cake. That's all.
Bob Newi, who we all knew and were all amazed at when we met him. And the most amazing thing was how humble he was. It was never about him and all of the jobs that he did. And that's truly amazing.
Cheers to Bob. To Bob.